everybody. I just wanted to walk through kind of some of the fun bugs and things that I found today. I'm usually 95% catch and release, but today I hooked into about a 12-inch little fish that wasn't looking too great, and he took the fly a little deep. So I have actually had the contents of his stomach laid out right here. So I wanted to, for anybody that's wondering why I'm so geeky about fly fishing, anybody who knew me growing up knows that I'm a bug lover, and there's lots of really neat stuff to see here. So, okay, so this little fish, here is everything that was in his stomach, and you can see some of it is still alive. Like that's the part that's so cool. So when I try to explain fly fishing to people, these bugs that live in the water, you're really just trying to imitate them, right? And these little guys that you can see here are midge larvae. So they're essentially, trying to get my bearings here. They're essentially like, if you can think of a butterfly, they're like the caterpillar stage. So they're just the babies, and they'll hang out like in the water for a month or two, like depending on the species. You can see like there's lots of different sizes and color variations and stuff going on, but like those little dark ones that are still swimming around, and I keep trying to wrangle them, and they just don't want to stay put. But those are the midge larvae. So if you look over here, you can see the flies that look like them, and we're talking pretty tiny, so there's like a quarter for size ratio. But we've got a couple different sizes of zebra midges. I call this one the midge of steel because it's a steel gray color instead of like a traditional black. There's my crack midge, which is kind of a creation. And I don't know if you can see, like this one here is almost kind of like a wine color, and it's got like a crystal bead on it, just based off of the fact that you can see, I think they call them bloodworms, but there's a couple red guys in there too. So back with the butterfly kind of analogy theme, if you can see all of these kind of, they're cocoons essentially. They're the shucks. So when these little guys get ready to grow up, they go into a pupa stage, essentially, a cocoon, where they then rise up to the surface and become essentially their adult form, like their butterfly. So you can see all of these big black guys right here, and those are good looking midges for this time of year. Like those are great. So those are the adults. This guy was obviously eating a lot of the adults today. So if you ever hear the term like hatch, usually 90% of the time what that means is these little bugs are in the process of coming up out of the water and breaking out of their cocoons and being adults. And there's the moment where they've just reached the surface and they have to break out of that shuck. And they're prone. They're kind of helpless, like a butterfly, right? Until like their wings are able to dry. So most people, when you talk about like a hatch, it's usually that phase, and that's when these bugs are just sitting up there helpless. And as soon as the fish realize it, they go after them big time. So a couple flies that match the adult. You can see, and again, we're talking really, really tiny. I like the Asher or a Griffith's gnat as opposed to sometimes like these single little adults, because it looks like a bunch of legs. It looks like a cluster of these midges. And it has the ability to draw maybe some bigger fish out of that too. So those guys were really fun today. You can see here too, we've got a bunch of smaller mayflies. Like if you've heard of the blue wing olive hatch, and some of these are a little more digested. than others, but I'm not sure if those are mayflies that are currently hatching, or if they're the ones that that we're going to start seeing here probably in about March for the good like blue wing olive hatch. And again, the flies that match those, I've got a little Barza merger, and then just a Betis nymph. Those are really cool. Something that's probably a little more familiar, like to most people outside of the fishing world, we've got a couple sow bugs in here. So those are essentially the same potato bugs like that you would see in your garden. Just kind of the aquatic version of it. They're always in the water, especially underneath like dams and stuff. In Utah, you're always going to have these sow bugs. So the fly for that, and you can see just like how close like the resemblance is. So there's kind of a conventional scud. I didn't tie that one because they're kind of a pain in the butt. And it's even going to stick to my knife. Or there's kind of like the lazy like Rocky Mountain sow version of it, which is a favorite fly of mine. Also got some really fun stuff happening here, and they're a little bit scummy and maybe a little bit more further along in being digested, but those are actually caddis in their full cases and everything like that. So if you remember looking in rivers when you were a kid and seeing these perfect like little cylinder things that were coming up off the rocks, and if you took one off and kind of squeezed it, there'd be like a little green worm in there. Those are the case caddis, and this particular species I'm pretty sure is going to be our Mother's Day caddis, the American Granum, which is one of my favorite hatches. So not a ton of those, but they're a big meal, so if the fish sees them, they're going to be pretty excited about it. And those are my kind of two favorite flies for that mixture. So yeah, bugs are neat, fish are really cool, and that's kind of what it's all about. So thanks.